Now, the last thing that I'm going to talk about with respect to the factors that affect choice of occupation is identity. Do I think of myself as a computing person? Well, the members of underrepresented groups, women, minority students, are not likely to have this sense of identity as a computing person. And by helping them develop that, you can help them be more likely to select a computing occupation. So, for example, you might describe opportunities that they would have and ways that they could get involved in computing through, for example, community service. Like this nonprofit needs help with setting up a web page for accessibility to its clientele. You could, with just one semester maybe of computer science, do a great job with that. You could help out in your community. Another way, see what that does, that kind of experience, what that does is it puts your student in the position of the computing expert. So, in other words, they are trying on this identity of computing expert. They have a chance to feel what it's like to have that knowledge and skill that somebody else needs. And so you're helping them promote that identity as a computer scientist. Going to a conference like a regional celebration of women in computing is another way to help your students or potential students promote identities as computer scientists. They can see other people like them who are interested in computing. Maybe they could present a project that they work on in your class as part of this conference. Again, I'm the expert. I did this project. Here's how it went for me, and I can tell you about it. A poster presentation like at that conference, or outreach projects. A lot of times, area businesses might have an interest in having you or you with some of your students help them out with something related to computing. And again, anytime the student is put in a position where they can apply expertise that they've learned in your class, it helps them try on that identity as a computer scientist. Another way to help students create an identity as a computer scientist is to offer them role models. So role models are really easy when it's someone who obviously looks like me. That's demographically, close to my age, same race as me, similar background maybe, talk the same way. Those kinds of things make it easy for a student to connect and see themselves in someone who maybe went through your class a couple of years ago and is now coming back to talk about what it did for them. And maybe they're in college now studying CS and all the different things. Maybe they've had internships. And so now somebody who was in your class just a few years ago, and this comes from my school and looks like me and it's not so much older than me, that's a really easy connection to make. It doesn't have to be like that, though. It just takes more work if the connection is not easily visible. In other words, if you bring somebody in who's older, who's not the same race, who's not the same sex, that person can still be a role model, but they have to expose more of themselves and their background to offer the students the opportunities to see where they connect. Maybe I came from a similar neighborhood. Maybe I went to a similar kind of like elementary school. Excuse me. Maybe maybe my parents were immigrants, but there are a lot of different ways that people connect. It's just important for someone that you're bringing in as a potential role model to talk enough about themselves and how they got to where they are so that the student has an opportunity to see how, oh, I'm like this person in this way. Maybe I could be like them with respect to computing. All right, so I've gone through the various factors that research shows influence selection of occupation. And I want to give you a silly mnemonic to try and help you remember these things. They are, again, interest. You need to ignite your students' interest. Confidence. You want to cultivate their confidence that they can succeed in your class and in computing. You want to build belonging. Help the student feel like he or she belongs with the other students who are in your class, like they fit. And you want to help them develop a sense of identity. You want to instill a computing identity. So that's ICBI, interest, confidence, belonging, identity. Now here's the visual for that. I C B bzz, I. See that big giant BI? I C B I. Okay, I know it's goofy, but when it's goofy, it's supposed to help you remember. That kind of thing works for me.
So I have two questions for this. First of all, how do I get these messages out to my school? Like, how can I present them to my school? And the second question is, I'm a female teacher, so I find it easier to recruit female students as a female teacher, and to make them belong because I'm also female. But how would a male teacher be able to comfortably make a female student feel like they belong?
Well, we're going to talk about that in the next section. I can just tell you that it's the behaviors that need to be the same whether you're male or female. Because we're all part of this culture, and it's very easy for us to fall into recreating the stereotypes about gender and about computing. And that's the bottom line that you want to avoid. You want to think about what appeals to this broader audience in computing, or that could be in computing, that we would like to have in computing.